Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica Flynn and I am the owner and maker of Flynn Sisters Boutique. And today we are going to be doing another vinyl wrap tutorial. I'm going to be featuring some new beautiful prints from the vinylcottageshop.com. April created these prints for me when she couldn't find just exactly what I wanted, and I absolutely love how they turned out. The moment I saw this pattern, I knew it had to be paired with a neon yellow. I had an instant vision. I was so inspired, and I hope you guys like this video. Of course, you know I'm going to have all the products that you see listed and linked down below in the description box. You might even find some discount codes for you there as well. You're also going to find links to all of our social media. You guys, we are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Come and find us. We have a lot of fun over at TikTok too. So that's enough chit chat for me. Let's go ahead and get started. So I want to start this tutorial by talking about these amazing printed vinyls. These are from the vinylcottageshop.com. April created these for me because she couldn't find just the right print, so she actually designed these herself, and I absolutely love how they turned out. I'm going to have a link down below on where you can find these, as well as a discount for you guys. Now, getting started, we want to have a fully prepped and sanded cup. If you're having trouble with how to prep your cups, I'll have a video down below that will definitely help explain that whole process. All right, and before we start to wrap our cup with this vinyl, we want to cut off all the salvaged ends. So we're gonna just use our paper trimmer to get a straight cut on all four sides to remove all those white, edges from the vinyl. I'm also going to kind of put the vinyl on my cup to see how I want to arrange it or position it, in what direction I want those leaves to go in. I'm also going to see if there's like an excess that I can just go ahead and remove right now. However, we always want to make sure we don't remove too much excess, because I do want to have some seam allowance on the top and bottom in case I need to adjust a little bit. So don't take off too much. We don't want to have an exact measurement here. I am using a 30-ounce straight skinny cup from Craft Haven, and this cup has no taper on it. That means it's completely straight on all sides, which makes for a very easy vinyl wrap. I do not like working with tapered or curved cups when I'm doing vinyl wraps, just because it's more trouble than it's worth. Okay, so to get started, we're going to peel back the paper backing about an inch from the side that we want to start with. Okay, so we're just going to fold back an inch of that paper backing, and then we are going to line that edge that we just exposed as straight as possible on our cup. If you're having a hard time finding a straight edge, I'll link a video down below that you might find helpful. But I just kind of eyeball it. I've done this so many times. It's easy for me to start it off straight, but getting that initial 1 inch applied straight is the secret to success with your vinyl wrap, okay? You're also going to want to get a felt lined vinyl squeegee thing. I don't know the technical term for this tool, but I get these for free with my my transfer tape that I use for my vinyl. I also get some from the Bowen on Etsy. I'll link their shop down below too if you want to pick one up from them and support their little shop. But anyway, we're just going to take our time. Now, you'll notice as I'm applying this, I'm leaving that paper backing on for as long as possible, and I'm using my tool and my hands as I'm pressing the vinyl against the cup to remove that paper backing. I'm not actually pulling my paper backing at all, and I'm not pulling too much on my vinyl either. If I have a place that gets too wrinkled, I just pull up on my vinyl and press down again, okay? I will tell you guys that this is a skill that does take some practice. I think sometimes we watch these videos and like we think, oh, it just comes so easy for them. It's so smooth. How is it so easy? And let me tell you, I have ruined many $4 sheets of vinyl in my time learning how to do this. So just be patient with yourself and don't be hard on yourself if you have a hard time with this. It is a skill that does take some practice. And my biggest advice would be to take your time, don't rush it, and just very, very slowly and carefully push down your vinyl with all the time that you need, okay, to very slowly press it against your cup while also peeling back that paper backing with the pressure you're applying from the front, okay, if that makes sense. If it helps to, maybe practice with some, cheaper sheets of vinyl or some removable vinyl, just so you can kind of get a feel for how this works. All right, so once we get to the end here, we're gonna have about 1 inch or so of overlap, and I'm just gonna press into my seam from the bottom seam, I guess it's called. I'm having a hard time articulating today. Anyhow, when we press down that overlapping inch or so, we'll see kind of a crease in our vinyl, and that crease is going to be our guide for trimming off our excess vinyl with a super sharp craft knife. You want to run your knife just along the other side of that crease, okay? So you will have about 1/16 of an overlap between the bottom and the top part that's coming here at the seam, if that makes sense. So we don't want to cut right along the seam. We want to cut right next to it, because if we cut right along the seam, we risk our knife going a little far over and then exposing some of the stainless steel underneath, and we don't want that. I would rather have a little bit of overlap at that seam than messing up the whole thing by exposing some stainless steel. All right, so just real steady hand here. If you wanted to place a piece of masking tape underneath before you started at that starting point to make it easier for you to see where you need to cut, you could do that as well. I think that's how Kelly does it with Dixie Darlings. She is the vinyl wrap queen. I'll link some of her videos too, because I think she makes this really easy for you guys. All right. Now, once we cut off our excess vinyl, we want to wrap the bottom as tightly as we can to remove any wrinkles. And we're also going to go around our sides and see if there was any bubbles we might have missed, puncture them with a sharp knife, and then rub them out with the felt side of our vinyl squeegee. All right, and then I'm also going to take my craft knife around the top there and just run that around the top rim to remove the excess there. And then to finish off the bottom here, we're just going to run a piece of masking tape as a guide to trim off the excess vinyl from our bottom rim here. Then I'm going to remove that tape and do a once over just to make sure that we've popped any bubbles and smoothed them out as best as we can. All right, and now I'm going to show you guys how I do my decals. The beauty of doing a full vinyl wrap is that we could place vinyl decals right over that vinyl pattern. I'm going to use this Hot Girl Summer decal design from Bear Trends Design. I'm going to link it down below. I've used this on a tumbler before, and I think it's just so cute and perfect for this print. This SVG is already layered, meaning she's already created the offset and included it in the file. So that takes some of the work out for us. I did size this at about 3.5 inches wide, and I think it ended up to be 3.6 inches tall. We're also going to design our stripes a little bit differently than we normally would. I'm going to select the shapes feature from Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to click that lock button up at the top to unlock the proportions. And I'm going to resize this to 11.5 inches wide by 0.15 inches tall. This is what's going to create our vinyl strips. Normally, I would do this just to make vinyl pinstriping as accents to my designs, but today we're going to use this as a feature in our design. So we're going to make our own pattern. I'm going to duplicate this stripe about, I think it's 8 times. I can't remember how many times I did, but I'm going to duplicate it enough to where it would fill up 3.5 inches of space on the bottom of my tumbler. So we're going to line up all these lines as a design element for the bottom of our tumbler. Kind of how we would do like a 3-way split, where we have like glitter at the bottom and then like pattern vinyl at the top, or vice versa. We're going to make the strips part of our design at the bottom. So I'm going to duplicate enough to fill up a 3.5 inch space. I'm going to select them all. Then I'm going to go to align, and I'm going to distribute them horizontally. Then I'm going to align them to the right. What this does is it perfectly positions all of my stripes so that they're evenly spaced. I'm going to weld them all together while they're all selected because I want to cut this in all one piece and I want to transfer it all in one piece. I'm also going to make some accent lines to go with this. The accent lines I'm going to place by hand, so I don't need to have these welded or aligned. I'm going to size these accent pieces to 11.5 inches wide by 0.08 inches tall. Okay, so these are going to be super thin stripes that we're going to use to accent the thicker stripes that we've already created here. The reason I am not going to attempt to align my thinner accent stripes is it's going to be really super hard to line them up on my cup, so I'm just going to hand place the skinnier stripes. Once we've got all these stripes on the canvas, I'm going to go ahead and cut them with my vinyl. Here, all I'm doing is I'm just trying to duplicate and arrange these to see if I would like them underneath those thicker stripes. That's all I'm really doing. But anyway, you want to make sure that you cut as many thin stripes as you cut the thick stripes. So for instance, if I made 8 thick stripes and I welded all 8 thick stripes together to transfer as one along the bottom of my cup, I want to create 8 thin stripes as accent pieces if you guys want to do the same design I'm doing. All right, so we're just going to get these cut. I'm going to do my stripes in my offset in neon yellow, and I'm going to do my accent stripes in my decal design in a beautiful kind of opal rainbow pink. I'll have both vinyls linked down below in the description box. So now we're going to go ahead and get our accent lines weeded and our thicker lines weeded. It's just super satisfying to peel that off. If you wanted to save those in-between stripes, you can. I just don't because of how I'm going to be transferring them. All right, and then I'm going to use one large sheet of transfer tape to transfer the yellow lines all at one time. So remember when I talked about why we need to weld these and transfer them all at once? You're going to see why here in just a second. This is beautiful fluorescent Oracal 651 vinyl from thevinylcottageshop.com, and this color is bright. I absolutely love their new fluorescent line. It is so beautiful. I am going to peel off my paper backing first, just to kind of loosen up my decal so it transfers without any kind of drama once we get it on the cup. And then we're going to position this down at the bottom of my cup along the seam of the vinyl that we just wrapped on our cup. All right, so those stripes are going to line up with that vinyl seam in the back, okay? And we want to get those lined up as straight as possible. And I've got a little bit of excess transfer tape here to help me anchor those and position them before we go to transfer them. I'm also going to kind of do a dry run with my vinyl and wrap it around the cup just to make sure it lines up, and that's how I know I have them lined up straight before I apply them. I'm going to apply them all at once in a similar fashion to how I would wrap a cup in vinyl, only we want to be applying like minimal pressure here. I don't want to be pulling this in any which way, because if we pull it in any kind of way, we risk the lines getting off track and being crooked when they come around to the back. I hope that all makes sense. You're going to see what I mean here in the video if you watch it. So you'll see me kind of pull up a couple times because I got a little bit crooked. So just be patient. Try to line them up as straight as you can. Also, why I didn't try to place these by hand and why I wanted to transfer them all at once was so that this process would be a little easier. It looks complicated from what I'm doing right here because I kind of kept messing up, but it's really not. All right, and now when you get to the end here, please don't make the same mistake I did. You want to definitely lift up at the end there and then remove that little piece of transfer tape that we had at the bottom there. So remember, we had that little piece of overlapping transfer tape that we used to anchor our stripes to line them up. Make sure that you cut that off first before you trim up this end piece. I did not do that, and I ended up having like a heck of a time peeling up all those stripes and then lining them back up after I trimmed up that excess transfer tape. So just learn from my mistake and take care of that first before you lay down these the end pieces on those stripes, okay? And you can kind of see here that I noticed right away that I didn't remove that excess transfer tape, and I had a really hard time getting it off. So anyway, once you get that all taken care of, we're gonna move on to our accent stripes. All right, so with the accent stripes, we're gonna line up the edges here right at that same back seam, the natural seam from our vinyl wrap in the back here. And I'm just going to place these by hand right underneath each neon yellow stripe just to add a little sass, a little oomph to our design. Definitely could forgo this if you wanted to, but I just think it makes it look extra special. And again, the reason why I didn't want to transfer these accent stripes as a whole and place them all down with the transfer tape is it just would have been too complicated to try and line them up. So I thought it would be easier to do them by hand. So we're just going to lay them down right underneath each neon yellow stripe and trim off the excess with our craft knife. I'm going to repeat that all the way down under each yellow stripe. All right, now we're ready to move on to our main decal with the Hot Girl Summer. This neon yellow is the offset layer of my decal, and so I just want to trim off any excess transfer paper as close to the decal as possible. And then I'm going to use my transfer tape to layer the vinyl. Now, anytime I'm using this transfer tape, what I want to do is really stick it onto the front of my decal, flip the decal face down, then peel the paper backing off. Never pull up with your transfer tape because it just will cause all kinds of bubbles and problems, and you'll have a hard time grabbing onto your decal. So same thing, you'll see I placed my decal face down, and then I'm lifting the paper backing off by peeling it back. That's going to ensure that no matter what kind of vinyl, no matter what texture or like intricacy, you're always going to be able to get it off of that paper backing without having any drama with your transfer tape. Okay, so now we're ready to place our vinyl. I'm going to place it on the opposite side of my vinyl seam that's in the back there. And we're going to place this about 1 inch down from the top and apply it using the hinge method, how I always do, being sure to measure twice so we only have to cut once. All right, and then after all of that vinyl work, we are ready for our first coat of epoxy. I would normally seal my vinyl, but I don't have any quick coat at my house. That's the stuff that I normally use to seal my vinyl. So since I was in a pinch, I just really made sure that I smoothed my vinyl down really, really well and hit it with a little bit of heat from like a space heater, not too much heat, just enough to make sure that that vinyl fully adhered and I was ready to apply epoxy. All right. I still would recommend sealing your vinyl. I just was living life dangerously this week. Okay. I've got 30 milliliters of amazing Clear Cast Quick Coat. That's Alumilite's fast setting epoxy. You guys know I absolutely love this stuff, and I'm just going to apply this like I normally would, making sure I have even coverage everywhere, and then I'm just going to hit it with my torch really quick to zap any of those bubbles. I'm going to let this dry for about 2.5 hours, and then I'll come right back to do a second coat. Even though we just did vinyl and no glitter on this, I do want to make sure that at the end of the day, I have 3 coats of epoxy over this vinyl to ensure a long-lasting protection. I let this coat dry for about 3 hours, and then I came back to do a second coat right over the top of it. I let that second coat dry for about 4 to 6 hours before we moved on to our sanding. So now my cup's all nice and dry, and I do want to do my top rim sanding like I normally would. We're just going to expose a really fine line of stainless steel up here around the rim, and that fine line of stainless steel that we're exposing will be where our final layers of epoxy will adhere to create the seal for our tumbler. Once I'm done with my sanding, I'm just going to wipe this down with some paper towels and rubbing alcohol. Normally I would rinse it off in the sink, but we didn't have a lot of sanding to do, so I'm just going to wipe it up real quick. All right, next we're going to just tape off the bottom here so that we could spray paint the bottom to finish it. And the reason why I want to spray paint after a couple coats of epoxy instead of just spray painting the stainless steel at the beginning is it's just going to create a smoother finish. I think it looks better. It helps you to blend the edge of that vinyl and all of that. So that's just the way I like to do it. So after we tape off that bottom rim, I'm going to mask off the remainder of my cup with some saran wrap, and I'm going to spray paint the bottom with some flat black spray paint. All right, and then while that paint is still a little bit wet, I'm going to remove my masking tape right away. If you find that some of your paint bled through the edge of your tape, it's not a big deal. Just get a Q-tip with some acetone on it to clean up those edges really quick. As soon as our paint is dry, which should be about 30 minutes or so, depending on the heat of your workspace, you're ready to go into your final coats of epoxy. This particular cup only took 1 final coat for us to be completely done, which is fantastic. And that was it. So that's it for this tutorial, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know what you thought in the comments. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. I do upload videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. And a big thank you to all of our Flynn Sisters exclusive members. Thank you for your pledge. Your support means the world to our channel. If you love this video, you could check out our last video here. Also be sure to find us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and of course subscribe for all our new videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. See you soon.